Live from our hurricane headquarters with real-time analysis from some of the nation's top meteorologists, this is Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric.
An advisory just in from the National Hurricane Center showing Hurricane Milton a little bit stronger. The Hurricane Hunter's flight showing a rebound in strength, according to the NHC. We are live here in your hurricane headquarters on Tracking the Tropics from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida, to answer your questions and provide you with the very latest here live. Welcome into the Stream Center, folks, with Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli. Eric's going to be working on some forecast graphics. We'll have Eric back on the stream, of course, in the coming hours. Jeff, good to see you. Welcome in for the first time today.
Yeah, good to be here, kind of. I mean, you know, it's never good to be here when you're talking about a hurricane coming straight at our coast. But I'm here, and we are going to get you through this storm, everybody.
All right, Jeff Berardelli here to answer your questions. Hashtag HeyJeff, hashtag HeyJB. So let me read, and I actually have it. It was brought up here on my phone, Jeff, and it was a Hurricane Hunter's flight. I'll read it here as follows. Hurricane Milton Advisory 14A. The Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters find that Milton's intensity has rebounded. Today is the last full day for Florida residents to get their families and homes ready to evacuate if told to do so. So what is the latest at this hour with this storm? I think we're up to 155 mile per hour wind speeds.
It's still a 4, but barely, right? Once the winds go to 157, it's back to a 5. And we're not completely surprised about that possibility that it could go back to a Category 5, simply because it went through an eyewall replacement cycle in the middle of the night. And so it completed that eyewall replacement cycle very quickly. And so now it is getting stronger again. It's over record warm water in the Gulf of Mexico. And so there's no reason it can't become a 5 again. And I know everyone freaked out when they saw it 180 miles an hour. I don't blame you. But we still, the exact same thing pertains. It is going to weaken and very likely weaken to a Cat 3 before it makes landfall here. Landfall is going to be very late tomorrow evening or even early on Thursday morning, as you can see right there. And once again, National Hurricane Center holding at 125 miles an hour. And I have to tell you, I very much agree with them on the intensity of the storm that comes in. I think it's going to be a Cat 3.
Streaming at all times on WFLA.com, the real-time wobble tracker. We have a link in the description on this video. I'll ask that our digital content team puts a comment on Facebook and YouTube Live if we can. Our moderators as well, to point people in the direction of the real-time wobble tracker, because it streams 24 hours a day over the course of storm coverage. So you can find this on our website, on the homepage of our website, Jeff, and we can see a significant development here with the wobble tracker, no?
Well, clearly you see that there's a wobble south. But before that, if you look kind of like 100 miles before that, there was a kind of a wobble north. Now, this was a significant wobble south. We'll see if that ends up helping us in the end. I don't put too much stock in the wobbles quite yet. There's still a lot that can happen between now and then. Sure, every bit of latitude that it goes down to the south is better for us. But I wouldn't put too much stock in this. Sure, though. It helps. I'd rather see it going that way than going the other way, JB. And here's the thing. This is so important. You know, just looking at our models, they're coming to a consensus right now. And would you believe that that consensus is right through the uprights of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge? In fact, I have a graphic I'll show you in a little bit, which will kind of explain. In fact, you know what? JB, I'm gonna reach over here for 1 second, and I'm gonna.
All right, so you want to? Why don't you bring? You want to bring the computer back over your way so you can?
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, there you go.
Computer back over. Okay, and actually, Gary fixed it for me. So, Gary, thank you very much for that.
1-800-ASK-GARY.
Yeah, I think that might be a copyright infringement there.
It might be.
Okay, take a look at this. I just drew this graphic because I think it's so pertinent to what's going on. It should be on Weather 1, JB.
Yep, bring it up.
Yeah, and here's the deal. The global models have shifted south, and significantly so, such that the average is somewhere around Bradenton, okay? The NHC track is on the very south side of Tampa Bay, which, by the way, if it takes the NHC track, it saves the vast majority of the bay, especially downtown Tampa and St. Pete, from a disastrous storm surge. One of my meteorologist friends in Miami, John Morales, who works down there, he's been a longtime meteorologist there. He was texting back and forth with me today, and he just said what we're all thinking, which is 15 miles makes the difference between, it's either going to be catastrophic for Tampa and St. Petersburg, or there's barely going to be anything when it comes to surge.
No, this is
specifically when it comes to surge.
This is a great graphic. I'm going to go full screen.
Yep.
and invite our audience to screenshot this, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook. This is brand new stuff. So again, Jeff, can you take us? Yeah. Well, let's explain it. But again, folks, I'm gonna leave it up full screen for a few more seconds so you could screenshot it, because this is a great tool that we have here to show people what the latest is with this storm.
So let me explain, and I have a theory as to what's going on here. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've figured it out. So the global models are over Bradenton. The hurricane model average is right over like St. Pete Beach and the southern part of Pinellas County. Let me tell you why. Because the hurricane models are better at mesoscale, like small scale, like thunderstorms. They're a finer grid. They're higher resolution. And what's happening here is when we look at our hurricane models, all the thunderstorms, as it approaches the coast, are offset on the northern side of the eye wall. So we're going to see the heaviest rain by far in this storm on the northern edge of the eye wall, just like we saw with Hurricane Ian. That is becoming, I think, a very significant and pretty certain scenario that's going to play out. But by putting all the thunderstorms, and the hurricane models are doing this, by putting all the thunderstorms on the northern side of the eye wall, it's almost like you have 5 people in a car and everybody shifts to the left side at the same time. What happens? The car swerves to the left. So the hurricane models are saying, hey, all the thunderstorms are going to be on the top of the storm. This storm is going to be top heavy, and the storm is going to wobble closer to Pinellas County. That's what the hurricane models are saying. Now, the global models don't have as fine a grid. They can see that there's going to be more storms on the northern side than the southern side, but they don't have the resolution to resolve the thunderstorms like the higher resolution hurricane models do. And so they're saying, oh, we're just going to look at the upper level steering, and we're going to steer the storm wherever the upper level steering says to go. That's what the global models are doing. The hurricane models are saying, okay, we're going to take into account the steering, but we're going to take into account that this storm is going to be top heavy because we have more thunderstorms and a better ability to resolve it. So this is going to be a battle between the global models and the hurricane models. The hurricane models have also trended south, by the way, so that's good. Now let me show you one more thing, JB, and then I may be able to take a question, but I will tell you on air, I have to go meet with the boss in like 5 minutes for a few minutes, and then so Eric's going to have to sit in for me, and then I'll come back again. But let me show you this. This is our in-house model, and when I came in today, I was talking to Amanda and Eric, and I told them my theory about what's going on. And I said, don't tell me what our in-house model is saying, because our in-house model is very good at resolving small-scale things. And they said, take a guess. And I said, I bet it's right up the middle of Tampa Bay. So let's take a look now. Right in the middle of everything that I was talking about. And if you look at this, if anything, I would say it's on the south side of Tampa Bay. And this wouldn't be a new run, but the center of circulation is right on the south side of Tampa Bay, close to where the National Hurricane Center track is. If it takes that exact track, it saves Tampa, St. Petersburg, and most of Tampa Bay from 15 feet of storm surge. If it goes 10 miles north of there, it's catastrophic with 15 feet of surge. If it goes 10 miles south of there, the bay almost gets no water at all. Can you imagine how razor thin this is going to be? And that's why the wobble tracker really is going to come in handy, because I really believe that we're going to be watching this system and the wobble tracker probably right up until the end of landfall. Unless there is a decided shift in the next 12 to 24 hours and it goes south, let's say, we're going to be watching the wobble tracker, and we're going to be biting our nails up until an hour before this storm comes on shore, if it is that close as it seems right now to Tampa Bay. Think about the National Hurricane Center track. It is literally right through Tampa Bay on the south side, right through Anna Maria Island. That would save Tampa Bay. But, 10 miles north, and it's disastrous for Tampa Bay.
All right. So the real-time wobble tracker, folks, every progression that it makes closer to Florida, this becomes an even more important tool. I was just during the lunch break, Jeff, I was talking with my family about the wobble tracker. And how when this is maybe 30, 40, 50 miles offshore, that's really when we get to crunch time, when this becomes the tool. We might just stream this and monitor as much of it as possible.
That's exactly what we'll be doing. And we'll probably turn that to radar, by the way. They won't have those are essentially infrared brightened clouds. We'll turn it to radar so you can really see the eye of the storm even better.
So
The radar's on there, but it's just not close enough to land.
When does it get close enough?
It will probably be close enough by tomorrow morning to see the eye. Probably by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that becomes even better for the wobble tracker to be used as a tool.
Every wobble is going to matter. And if you remember in Helene, JB, there were literally 20-mile wobbles. And 20 miles gets you from Anna Maria to St. Pete Beach.
Yeah,
and that's enough for the difference between catastrophe and Tampa. Oh, and by the way, it was a really gusty and it was a strong winds, but there was no water in downtown Tampa or downtown St. Pete.
Let's just quickly check in. We've had 1 or 2 people in our comment section on YouTube Live saying they're having difficulty, that it might be taking a while to refresh on YouTube Live. Oh,
the
you
boss
gotta,
is getting,
you
the
gotta
boss
go.
is getting it.
Okay.
Hey, Val.
Thumbs up
I need
emoji.
you. So Val is coming to sit in for me.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go talk to Dave if I'm not fired by now for being like 5 minutes late, and then I'm gonna come back and sit down again. Okay.
Sounds
come
good.
Sit here. Okay, you're gonna run the computer.
Dave is a tough cookie, man. So we have a lot of decisions being made here. Everybody, please welcome in Val Simpson. Of course, a dual language extraordinaire here at WFLA. Can you give us a hello en español, please, and just let people know that we got them covered.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están todos? Mi nombre es Val Simpson, soy presentadora del Tiempo para Noticias Tampa hoy y estamos dando todos los adelantos con los boletines del Centro Nacional de Huracanes en español por Vigilando los Trópicos. Basically, it's the same thing that JB does, but in Spanish, and I do it with my partner, Gerardo Sierra. So shout out to Gerardo. Do we have a boop boop? No, we don't.
What, the sound effect?
Yeah, that's what I was looking
You're
for.
You're calling for a sound effect?
I know you have a lot of like little trinkets or something there, or buttons, not trinkets.
They are, just for this is interesting.
Let me see.
I'm on Bloom right now. What am I doing on
What do you
Bloom?
mean? What do you mean Bloom? Your face?
I'm serious.
I can't see you. I can't see you.
Well, guys.
Behind me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's you.
Is that not weird? Hold on.
Are you guys seeing this? Let me move my head. Why
Why am I on TV?
Look at, that's JB right there. Hey, nice jacket, by the way.
They are airing reruns of Bloom.
I thought it was your twin. Well, and here with us, we have Eric Stone.
Hold on. Can I get you guys to switch seats? Because now we're getting all discombobulated because we have a lot of station meetings happening right now. So, all right, musical chairs.
All right.
This is how it is. You guys.
This is what we play in a hurricane, musical chairs.
Real quick, just a programming note. TampaOy.com has all of the same coverage in Espanol with Jerry and Val Simpson.
Thank you.
It's a great tool for
Yes.
people out there that speak exclusively Spanish or that's their first language.
That's right.
It's a great tool. Eric, what are you seeing in the 2 o'clock advisory?
Okay, so this is what's big. Now, we saw the wobble tracker move ever so slightly to the south, right? Between 11 and 1 o'clock. And look at the line. You see that little hump right there? And then it goes back southeastward. It's very interesting that all of a sudden, and I want to pull up our, if we have the mouse is here, I want to pull up our model and our in-house model. And you remember the in-house model initially had this going right through Tampa Bay. Let's see if it updated at 1:15 because it almost looked like it was further to the south. So we're going to zoom this in so we can see exactly where this is at. All right. And okay, so now it doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like this updated, unfortunately. But I just have to say that I believe the trends are still going to be slightly further south with these 12Z runs that I've noticed. And, the question is that due to this slight wobble, JB, that we saw, or, are the models trying to correct itself? We're going to wait and see if this continues to move directly east of that 4. And it's really hard with that number 4 on there to see whether that's going to stay below the line or if it's going to hug that line. But that line, JB, on the wobble tracker is pretty much northeast. And the motion is east-northeast, okay? There is a difference in that. So we're going to continue to see if this does make, stay below that line or not. This model here is going to update, I believe, around 4:15, and we'll get a better idea, our in-house model, if if this does indeed move a little bit further to the south. And of course, the cone update at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. So the 5 o'clock update will be. It's always big, but
Yes,
even
because
perhaps
of the
even
cone.
bigger today, because the in-house model will be coming in. We'll get the very latest there. And folks, you can always call for certain models if you want to see the GFS and the Euro. Call for it in the comment section. You want to see our in-house model at WFLA. You can call for it. You want to see spaghettis. Call for it. We're here, of course, to provide the most comprehensive, interactive coverage possible. Let's remind our audience that in just a moment, we're going to start to take hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyEric, whomever is basically seated at this point. I'm just ebbs and flows of the Stream Center. Whoever's seated, if you see a hashtag on the silver stripes on your screen, we can interact with you. Just use one of those hashtags, and of course, we can bring up your comments live. So I'm going to start to call for those comments. Now, can you bring up Jeff's graphic of the red, black, and teal lines? I was curious.
You're talking about the hurricane models versus the global models.
This one. Let's go full screen.
Yeah.
I asked our audience on YouTube Live, I did a flash poll, which model do you believe is correct? Do you like the average track of the hurricane models? Do you like what the NHC is saying with the black line, or the GFS and the Euro, the global averages? Do you like that teal line? And then I gave everybody an option for I'm just not sure. And you know what won out? I'm just not sure. 41% of people are just not sure about where the storm is going to head and which track here is going to be most accurate. For what it's worth, the one that got the most votes so slightly was the red line. But,
the hurricane models, that's not something typically, people are familiar with. It's HMON, HWRF, halves A, halves B. And someone actually asked, if you remember, JB, about the halves B model and said, well, this is looking like the pressure could get really, really low. It also had, those hurricane models had Helene into the 890s. In fact, one was 888 millibars. And Helene, didn't get anywhere close to that. But Milton did get to 897. So as far as intensity goes, the hurricane models were actually a lot closer by far than the global models. But the track of the hurricane models have been way north. They were yesterday, I believe, on the Nature Coast. GFS was pretty close to that in the global model. But I would tend to trust, and for the reason that Jeff said, being a top-heavy storm, with the rainfall being mostly in the northern end of the storm, I would definitely trend toward the global models in this case.
The global models would be the teal line.
The GFS, the Euro, the Icon, the German model, the Euro AI, the Navy models in there, the Canadian models in there, although those two are a little bit underperformed typically.
Yeah, so the global models, very much on brand with Eric, feeling like this could move so slightly to the south. And look, the reason why, I want to be very clear, the reason why movement to the south is, look, that would spare a lot of storm surge in Tampa Bay, catastrophic levels of storm surge in Tampa Bay.
I post my Facebook updates, and of course, when I saw the NHC track where it's at now, personally, I was excited because I know how many millions of people, fewer people will be less impacted. And, some people in Sarasota down to Fort Myers said, no, we don't want this thing moving south. We're going to get, hit harder. The thing is, a 20-mile move from the bottom tip of St. Petersburg to Anna Maria Island, there's going to be virtually no difference in effect in the Fort Myers area. There, in Charlotte County, Sarasota and Manatee County are expecting 10 to 15 foot of storm surge, regardless if this makes landfall at St. Pete Beach or Anna Maria Island. Yeah. Unfortunately, catastrophic damage is going to happen, whether it takes a slight northern track or a slight southern track. But if it takes a slight southern track, you and me and everybody here will not be under 15 feet of water. And the thousands or maybe tens of thousands of homes, I don't know how many homes are in and around Tampa Bay, maybe tens of thousands of homes and millions of people that live around Tampa Bay will not be impacted with that 20-mile difference. And that's what you just said.
Use the hashtag, ask a question. Hashtag Hey Eric, hashtag Hey JB is currently what we're focused in on here in the Stream Center. CNN on YouTube Live. Can you show a zoomed in spaghetti models zoomed into Tampa Bay? You know, that's interesting because usually when you zoom in with the spaghetti models, it's hard to see through them, you know? But, you know, what's interesting is that Ozzy also too, YouTube Live, saying hashtag AJB and Eric, show the spaghettis. Ask and you shall receive.
Yep. So here you go. The black being the consensus models. But look how many models are south from Anna Maria Island southward. I would say there's probably maybe a few more models that are south. If you take the two outliers that are, you know, in central northern Pinellas County and Pasco County, and again, zooming right there, actually the one is in Hernando. You take those out of the equation, the average really is pretty close to the Manatee-Sarasota County line, right? Which is a lot further south than what we saw yesterday. So let's see if this progression does continue.
Yeah, so zooming in there is helpful. Can you zoom in even more on Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah,
Have we ever done this much on spaghettis?
Well, not on the air because you know, we don't really show. You can't really see all the models. You'd have to kind of zoom into Sarasota, zoom into the Venice area, and there's nothing below Venice.
I feel like I'm in an Andy Warhol forecast. Like it's just weird seeing all the randomly colored lines.
Spaghetti looks real, doesn't it?
Yeah,
we just had pizza, so
it's like that tricolor spaghetti.
Italian?
Yeah, no, we did eat. Anybody out there eating spaghetti right now? There's your spaghetti models, folks.
If it looks like this, you're in trouble.
So let's look. We've got some very educated viewers out there. E. Torres wants to see the German icon model. Now, what's interesting about the German icon model? It's a model that gets a lot of shout out love from our Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli. It has become a more increasingly popular model, the more dependent model. So what do you got, Eric, for the German?
I mean, you know, icon was pretty good with Ian, and I've noticed over the past 3 years, I've looked at it in the past, but I haven't really, you know, I take it with a grain of salt until it starts performing, and it's really been pretty good. The German model has been south of the Bay, I think, ever since model runs started, pretty close to it, at least for the last 2.5 days or so. The icon/German model, which is the yellow on your screen, has been a lot. It's been more consistent. It was a little bit further to the south. It was northern Sarasota County, but boy, it hasn't really shifted much compared to the GFS model, which again was, you know, along the Nature Coast 48 hours ago. Yesterday it was Pasco County, and now it's right along the track. But the icon model, it just really hasn't deviated, and it's very, very, very close to the NHC track right now.
I thought we've seen almost all the types of different questions so we could get. Here's a question I haven't seen before.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yep.
Bill says, hashtag HJB, what are the chances of Milton hitting Milton? As in Milton hitting Milton, Florida. And yes, there is a Milton, Florida.
I've heard of Milton,
You want to know where it is?
Yeah.
All right, so can you bring up a map? Let me point you in the right direction, and we can give a very, very significant answer here, an emphatic answer to Bill. So I'm going to show everybody where Milton, Florida is located. And I'll just kind of point you in the right direction, Eric. You're going north, way north.
So I can't. Let me zoom in here.
Because I'll tell you what.
So we're gonna go right around here.
What I'm getting at, it might take Eric a lot of work. I can answer this very, very quickly.
Okay.
If you're
further north. Further north.
We're going to Milton, Florida. North, west.
Oh my gosh.
West. Okay.
Pensacola?
There's basically northeast of Pensacola. Zoom in.
Yeah, it's probably not going to
show maps, but basically right there. No, you're close. You're actually zoom in again. But right there, kind of on the left.
Oh boy,
is Milton, Florida, and in Milton, Florida, you can watch on your lawn chairs with a drink in your hand and you don't have to worry at all about
no,
Hurricane Milton.
No, not at all. Wow.
I did not know there was a Milton, Florida. Now I know.
I've heard of Milton, Florida, but I had no idea where it was at.
Yep, there you go.
No.
Okay. Next up in the queue, we're going to go to Miralus on Facebook Live. Temple Terrace, first floor, brick apartment building. 1.3 miles from Hillsborough River. I love all the specifics here. This is great.
Yeah.
Temple Terrace, first floor, brick apartment, 1.3 miles from Hillsborough River, south of Fowler, between Whiteway, Bush Boulevard, east of 56th Street. My God, I mean,
I think there's a really good diner there that I like to go to.
Really?
Pretty close to it.
Okay.
Well, it's not on 56. I think it's closer to Nebraska, I believe, is there. Well, anyway, or maybe 41. Either way, looks like you're going to be far enough away from any surge. Although, again, with this, moving south of you, you're not going to worry about the surge. The one thing I'm concerned about, again, north of the storm is the rainfall amounts of up to 12 inches of rain in a short period of time. So if you're in a low-lying area that typically floods even on a rainy season day, regardless if you're in Temple Terrace or you're somewhere else north of the track, there's going to be some flooding. There's going to be inland flooding in low-lying areas. And if you have a vehicle that, sometimes is on the borderline of, the water's up to the tires here and there, when it rains hard on a rainy season day, you might want to consider moving the vehicle. Obviously, the wind is going to be a huge issue too. Hurricane force wind 80, 90 miles an hour, gusting over 100, given the current track right now.
I'm just getting a lot of updates here on my phone. We've got Ozan. So here's an example of a comment. We wish I had a little bit more specifics.
Right.
But I guess near Sarasota is good. Should I evacuate if I live in Manatee County, near Sarasota, even though I'm not in an evacuation zone? Ozan and others, I believe the words that came out from the NHC.
Yeah.
And that is that today is the day to evacuate. If you want to evacuate, look, if you're in a mandatory evacuation zone, evacuate. If you are outside of a mandatory evacuation zone, but you are concerned about you, your family, your pets, your property, and basically your livelihood in general, and you want to evacuate, you're on the road 3 hours ago, to tell you the truth. You want to be getting out. Yeah. You want to be getting out like right now. Today is really the last day to confidently make your way out of the cone. I know I have family that is traveling out of the cone and just hit a massive southbound traffic backup near Alligator Alley. Traffic is insane down there, but people are making it through. They're making it down to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, some other areas, Boca. You can still get out of the area north or south, but you need to be on the road.
Yeah, and again, we don't know if you're in a mobile home or a smaller structure that will not be able to withstand a Cat 3 or even a Cat 1 hurricane. If your house is safe and you're well away from any water that storm surge could affect, if you're not in a low-lying area with potentially 8 to 10 inches of rain or more, and your house is hurricane resistant to a Cat 3, then you could stay, but it really all depends on exactly where you are and what kind of building that you're going to be living in.
All right, so we're going to take these final 2 questions for the hashtags for now. We got video questions coming in via WFLA.com/report it. And I think we've made improvements. We're getting to the bottom of some of the glitches that we've had with our video questions. Let's go to Zachary first, hashtag HAB. There isn't really discussion of impacts on the east side of the state. It will still likely be a Cat 2 once it hits water again. Cat 2 weakening to a Cat 1. Also, too, we'll just throw Brandon on here back to back. Hashtags for us both. I'm from California. House sitting with no hurricane experience. Can you let me know how Stewart will be affected? Now, Stewart is on the east coast of Florida.
Right,
so
a little bit further south.
Yep, tackle these.
Southern end. So it's funny. One of my best friends from elementary school, you know, Facebook came in existence, and all of a sudden, people you went to school with started finding you on Facebook. Is really cool. And my best friend from elementary school found me on Facebook about 12 years ago and said, "Hey, you know, you live in Fort Myers. I have a house in Stewart. You know, come visit." So I went to Stewart. It was a really nice area. So yeah, I know where it is. It is along the coast. You're on the south side of the storm, so you're not going to deal with any storm surge. Tropical storm force wind at best, but don't get me wrong. We talked a lot about the East Coast. We talked about Titusville. We talked about Orlando. We talked about Vero Beach a lot, Cocoa Beach, Jacksonville. If you live north of the track, so north of Cape Canaveral area, there is potential for storm surge. There's potential for, I would say, 3 to 5 feet, maybe even up toward Savannah, Georgia. Okay. As far as the rain goes, if you're north of the track, if you're north of Cape Canaveral, Titusville, Daytona Beach area, then, you know, you're going to get a lot of rain out of this. Again, 8 to 12 inches possible. So this will be moving quickly. It will likely be at least a Category 1 storm, maybe a Cat 2. But again, this is a weakening storm. So a weakening storm hitting land typically weakens a lot faster than a strengthening storm like Helene. That took a long time to weaken. It was really intensifying as it hit land. This is going to do the exact opposite. It's going to be weakening as it hits land. So the land interaction will cause us to weaken a lot faster than Helene, even though it's moving quicker. So I would say a high-end Cat 1 storm at best on the East Coast.
All right. Report it. Let's get to the video questions that are coming in. You can send in a selfie video. Show and tell is great, by the way. You can show us where you're joining us from, ask questions about your location on the map, and we'll do our very best to answer as many of these questions live. Eric, we've gotten some feedback on how we do reported segments. We'll try to be as concise as possible with them and keep the kind of line of questions moving, if that sounds good to you.
Yep.
All right, let's do it. All right, so first up in the reported queue is Christopher. He is joining us from Bradenton. Let's listen in to Christopher again from Bradenton.
We're in a concrete house right behind Manatee High in Bradenton, Florida. How do you think the storm surge is going to be? We're like 5 miles from the bay.
All right, Christopher, thanks for the video. What do you got?
Yeah, so 5 miles from the bay, even if you did get the brunt of the storm surge, you know, the surge, in my opinion, anywhere is not getting more than a mile. I don't even think it's going to get to 3/4 a mile, half a mile maybe. But if you're more than a mile away, I wouldn't worry about storm surge. Now, you've got the Manatee River. You've got all sorts of rivers that, you know, flow from the bay to the east, right? So if you are along one of those rivers and there was storm surge, then chances are you know, if you were within a 1/4 mile away from one of those rivers, you may get storm surge. But with the track right now, it looks like the center of this is going to move pretty close to Bradenton. And it looks like the eye would move pretty much right over Bradenton. Now, if this does move slightly to the south, that would put you in the northern eye wall, which would be a lot of rain. So you're 5 miles away. I wouldn't, you know, obviously worry about storm surge. But if you're in a low-lying area, and I need to stress this more, low-lying areas are really going to flood, okay, with rainfall. Not storm surge, but rainfall. The northern side of this storm, JB, has got a lot of rain to it. We're talking a foot or even more. I would be surprised if some places got even 14, 16 inches. It's not going to be like Ian 20 to 24 because it's not expected to move that slow, okay? It's going to move a lot quicker. So right now, the rainfall totals are an estimate of about 8 to 12 inches of rain. So if you are in a low-lying area, chances are if you flood on a rainy season day, you're definitely going to flood in this.
All right. Thank you to Christopher from Bradenton. Next, we've got Trevor. Trevor is joining us from Oldsmar. Let's listen in.
Hey, Eric and JB. It's Trevor again from yesterday. Quick question. So our boss at work just told us that we need to work tomorrow from 6 a.m. to noon. We work in Pinellas Park. A lot of us are really not happy about that. Is it really a good idea for us to be out tomorrow, or should we tell them, hey, sorry, we're just not coming in?
This is Trevor asking for a doctor's note. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. No, Trevor, in all seriousness.
So let's look at, you know, I mean, he's going to be fine because this storm has really slowed down, so to speak, right? it's taking its good old time getting here. So here's 8 o'clock, and and these are wind gusts, and you're looking at wind gusts up to 25. You get to noon, and you're at wind gust up to about 30, and that's it, right? And it's time to go home. Depending on where you live, now it's 1 o'clock, and really, we're still right around the 30 mile per hour wind gust up to 2. I mean, I think you'd be safe through noontime in Pinellas County. I mean, I don't know what he does. I don't know if he's
That's what
a
I was about to
driver, if
say.
he's working outside.
This is industry dependent.
Yeah, if he only has to drive home 5 minutes, well, that's a big difference. Sure, you're fine. If you have an hour commute, or if you're outside the whole time,
To Trevor and to Trevor's boss, I would just say, look, please err on the side of caution. Be as safe as possible. Do not push it up until the very last moment. There could be complications. What if there's an employee that was working up until the very last moment, and then on the way home, there's a little bit of wind and pushes a nail onto the road, and all of a sudden that person has a flat tire.
Yeah, they're stuck.
Right. I mean, you want everyone to have ample time to be able to get home. I don't think that, pushing it right up until, the storm's arrival is best practice, but that's up for a business owner. And really, it's, like I said, number one thing, it's industry dependent.
Right.
Certain businesses are going to have to stay open for as long as possible, or even through the storm. Others, it's better to err on the side of caution and just make sure that you're closing with plenty of time for your employees to get home safely and get prepared for the storm.
So I went to one of my favorite 24-hour diners over in Clearwater, and I had asked them. I said, "So when are you guys closing?" And they said, "Oh, we're not closing." I said, "You're going to stay open through the storm?" It's like I think even Waffle House is going to close. And everybody that knows,
the Waffle House.
everybody that knows Waffle House, if Waffle House closes, there's some serious bleep going on.
No,
right?
That's a big deal.
This diner supposedly isn't closing. And I said, listen, of course, the safety part of me said, do you have hurricane-proof windows? Because the whole exterior is all windows. Well, we don't know. I'm like, you need to convince your boss that, you're going to lose power, and it's not a good idea, whether they listen or not, whatever. It's not a good idea to keep any business open. And I have 3 o'clock on here on purpose, because it looks like once you start getting into that 2 to 3 o'clock hour, that's when we start to get those tropical storm force wind gusts, right? 39 or more. And I think that's when the latest the bridges will start closing, right? So if this guy is working till noon, and maybe he has a commute to Tampa, Brandon, who knows where, you don't know how traffic's going to be. You don't know if last minute people are going to be evacuating. We just don't know exactly how far you have to go from work to home.
Yeah.
If it's 5 minutes, I'd say, okay, 12 o'clock, you're fine. You see what I mean? But if it's an hour, if it's Polk County, it's a little different.
I did note, and I want to make a change here. But first, I saw some comments coming in, and Michelle, I see your comments. We're going to change that. Look, we came up with the wobble tracker. Jeff did, a couple of years ago, I believe. What year was that, Jeff, when he came with wobble tracker? 2022?
Ian.
21, 22, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
We need the
22.
Waffle House tracker.
Yeah,
we need a map of Waffle Houses, and that will show us when they're closing.
Yeah.
Like green light on, red light off. And
right.
if we see the Waffle Houses closing, that's a weather indicator of some kind. I obviously I'm playing around, but there are people that are like, man, if Waffle House closes, we know we are in for something.
Yeah, that's how it is in Florida. It's like if you see Jim Cantori, you're in for something. If you see a Waffle House close, you're in for something. From what I heard, Waffle Houses are actually built to be safe places during hurricanes, is what I've heard.
I'm sorry, say it again?
I heard from somebody that worked there a while ago that Waffle Houses are built to withstand hurricane conditions, and that they are safe places. I can't confirm that 100%. It's just hearsay, but it's very interesting if that's true.
I am not going to, give people advice to shelter at their local Waffle House,
not.
but If you're in need of a hot meal in the aftermath of a storm and everything else is closed, to use another outdated word, Waffle House will be bumping because there will be people there that are going
power
and want a hot meal, and that's the place to go. And look, the people that work at restaurants in the aftermath of a storm, you guys are heroes.
Yeah.
And let me explain why real quick.
And during a storm.
Everyone that prepares food for you in the days after a storm likely have their own issues, their own problems that are storm related. And what they are doing is going to work to feed other people. So I don't care if it's somebody with the, manning the cheeseburgers at McDonald's versus somebody making the waffles at Waffle House. It might seem like unappreciated work, invisible work, but you should really do your very best to be kind in the drive-thru, be kind at your Waffle House, tip extra, really help people, pay it forward. I'm serious. Everything that goes into the restaurant industry, as somebody who comes from my family very much comes from the restaurant industry, there are so many people that you do not see in the aftermath of a storm that are heroes because they are feeding their community and doing so while their family is at home potentially dealing with their own set of problems. So without monologuing too hard here, please be kind, considerate, and pay it forward with anybody that provides you food in the aftermath of a storm. They're doing it. They're sacrificing time with their families to be able to provide food for you and your family.
So what's interesting, a lot of people don't know about me is I pretty much put myself through college by waiting tables and bartending.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was in the restaurant industry for 6 years, started out in high school as a dishwasher, quickly moved to, waiting tables, bartending. I worked for a hotel in Laconia, New Hampshire, central New Hampshire, where I'm from. And if anybody remembers the ice storm of 1998 up in New England, in Canada, places were without power for weeks, okay? Ice storms are a big thing up there. And when you get, half an inch to an inch of ice on power lines, they come down, especially with wet snow and whatever. And the linemen were staying at our place because it was a big hotel. It was very sturdy. We had power. And I remember feeding the linemen, serving so many people in that scenario. And yes, they're very, very appreciative that they can get a hot meal because their power, some of them lost it for weeks. We lost power for, I believe, 28 hours, and we had 5 dogs, 3 little Yorkies and 2 German Shepherds. And so the German Shepherds, they got a lot of fur on their skin. The Yorkies are very, very small. So again, you want to keep your pets safe, but as JB was saying, you get a hot meal, you definitely want to be very, very thankful to the people that give it to you.
I'm serious.
And I did see this wobble tracker. I did, and I expect this easterly motion to continue for a little while. Remember before I said,
what makes you say that? I'm curious because, okay, everybody pay attention to the eye of the storm and you see it moving now. It almost like it's on it's not traveling northeast anymore.
No.
It is moving, directly east. So
yeah.
For several wobbles here now. So what?
It almost looked like the latest frame might have been slightly north of east. But again, the eye is going through what we talked about before, the eye wall regeneration process. And so, it tends to weaken as it goes through that process and then strengthens again as the eye becomes more well-defined. And yet again, we are seeing that eye a little bit more well-defined now, in fact, compared to, 6 hours ago. But it does. But again, if you look at the track itself is pretty much due northeast. If you look at that red line, it's due northeast, okay? Yet it is moving, even if it's moving east-northeast, which is what the current advisory states, east-northeast is going to stay below that line, right? Definitely. And so I wonder how this is going to adjust with the track
at 5.
Yep. But also the forecast models have to initialize where the storm is at the time that the models initialize, okay? So the models that are already out, right? The 12Z models that are already out aren't going to show the effects with this wobble to the south of the track. The 18Z models will pick up, okay, here's where Milton is. Now let's go from here. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a lag. You're not going to really see the effects of the models until the next run goes out. And what it does is it's what we call it initializes on that given point where the center is. And then it kind of goes from there. Do you see what I mean?
Yep. I'm curious to see, how, look, 5 o'clock's update, look, that's going to be, it's going to be fascinating.
It is. And you know what? The track still may not go that far to the south until the models initialize on the new position, right? Because the models figure, okay, this is moving in one direction. And if it moves in this direction, here's where the models are saying, each model's, okay, it's going to be here, here, here. But then if you move that direction east 30 miles, then how are the models going to, how are they going to react to it? The models are going to start in a different place than initially starting the run before.
Let's get back to WFLA.com/report it, and we'll try to keep things moving here and checking in with Wobble Tracker and our computer models throughout the live stream. We had Trevor in Oldsmar. Trevor, I hope you and your boss, everybody makes the best decision for you and your families. Next up is going to be Stacy in Ocala.
Hi, I am in Marin County, Ocala, Florida. What will Ocala expect? I'm originally from South Florida, so I'm pretty familiar when it comes to hurricanes. Like I was in Andrew, Irma, Wilma. But what can Ocala and Marin County expect?
What you got, Eric?
I would definitely say the possibility
Hi,
of hurricane.
I am in Marin County.
Yep.
Sorry.
No. I would definitely say the possibility of hurricane force wind gusts over 75 miles an hour. I think, and again, that's on the given track, right? If the track moves south, you probably will see wind gusts a little bit under hurricane force and 50 to maybe 60 sustained wind for a short period of time, but definitely a lot of rain as you'll be on the northern side of the storm. You're not going to be in the northern eye wall, so you're not going to get that 12 inches of rain, but still the possibility of 6 to 8 in Ocala.
All right, so 3 more in the queue, and then we'll get back to hashtag-based questions, Wobble Tracker, and computer models, all of it coming up here on Tracking the Tropics. Next up in the queue, Jeff, you want to sit down? Okay.
That's fine. I don't need
On here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll sit down.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So you're joining or swapping?
Well, you have to do the forecast. but
Yeah,
that's
I
up to you,
do.
Eric.
I do.
Okay. I'll
All
sit
right.
for now and then
Okay.
do the forecasting. I'm here now.
Jeff Berardelli, everybody.
You're getting the inside baseball, everybody.
That's right.
I actually think it's good. I think inside baseball is good.
This is a studio and a control room all in one. There's no other backup sort of facility, of producers in a control room. I'm punching everything here. You guys are manning the weather graphics. We've got it all figured out. Let's get to the next video question, if we can. And I think that next up, stand by here, everybody. Now that Jeff is here, I'm just making a quick adjustment. And let's see here. And we've got in the queue joining us next is, I'm sorry, everybody, James from Midtown, Tampa, Florida. Let's get to James here next.
Hey, you guys. My name is James. Live in West Tampa, right off of McDowell, Kennedy area. What's the likelihood of high winds and flooding over here?
What you got, Jeff?
Well, I don't think you're going to get storm surge flooding because you're north of Kennedy or near Kennedy in the Midtown area. But the north side of the storm is going to be very top heavy with a lot of heavy rain. So we think that north of the center, there's going to be some areas that get over 10 inches of rain. So flooding, yes, but from rainfall and not from storm surge. And so I think that's a pertinent question for everybody from Tampa North and through Pinellas County too. and northeast of there. Anyone north of the center of the storm, we're going to see 10 to 15 inches of rain in a short period of time. So if you're listening from, northern Pinellas, Palm Harbor, northern Hillsborough, Lutz, or Temple Terrace, Pasco around Wesley Chapel, Spring Hill, if you're listening from these areas, Lakeland or north of there, if you're very low lying, expect that you're going to have water on your block and maybe water in your house. So elevate your valuables. Anything you really need, that boxes of pictures, boxes of documents, don't think because you're not getting storm surge that you're not going to get flooding. Because this is going to be a lot like Ian. Not as much rain, but the north side is going to have most of the rain. Probably 80% of the rain is going to be on the north side. And we have a high risk for excessive rainfall, which is rare. You don't get excessive rainfall outlooks from the National Weather Service. It's the National Weather Service. So anyway, point being, yes, you're going to see the heavy rain with flooding, and then the gusts in Tampa, I think, could be up to about 110 miles an hour in Tampa. So yes, you're going to see gusty winds. And other thing I just want to mention to everybody, talked about the flooding, elevate your stuff if you're north of the storm. The other thing is that in terms of the winds, these are not the kind of winds that are going to just blow up houses. That's what happened in Michael. That's what happened in Andrew. That's not going to happen with this storm. It does not have the power to just blow down your house. So houses aren't going to collapse unless they're not built well or they're mobile homes. So the solid structure, concrete block homes are going to survive just fine. Your roof may be compromised, but the structure is going to remain intact. I just want to tell people that because they see this monster coming and they're wondering if their house is going to survive. And if it's built well, it's going to survive. It's not like a Michael or an Andrew in that, or a Charlie in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, next up in the queue, thank you to James from Tampa. Again, we're asking questions to Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli, Meteorologist Eric Stone joining us here on Tracking the Tropics. Next up, we have Olive joining us from Bradenton.
Hi, y'all. I'm coming from South Bradenton. I live in a second-story apartment with cranked windows. I am not allowed to board them. So, is there any recommendations you can give me on keeping my windows safe?
Thank you, Olive. What do we got?
No.
Right.
And she needs to leave.
Yeah.
She needs to leave. You need to leave. You're in Bradenton and your windows are those old crank windows
gosh.
and they're not allowing you to protect them. You need to go.
Yeah.
That's my answer to that. If you don't have storm windows, and Bradenton, by the way, looks like the most likely place
right in
that
the
this
eye,
could,
pretty
right
close.
across 6 hours of hurricane force winds. You are not safe in that place. You got to go.
Next up in the queue, thank you, Olive, for the question. Cassie in Lakeland, Florida. Let's listen in to Cassie.
Hey, Eric. Hey, JB. We live over in Lakeland by the hospital off Lakeland Hills. And then on the other side of us is Lake Parker. And I'm trying to convince my husband to help me board up these windows, but he says it's not a big deal and that it's nothing we should be concerned about. Just curious what your consensus is as far as the wind gusts in Lakeland and if boarding up should be a priority or not.
Well, the baby,
Thanks, guys.
the baby agrees. As soon as she said the husband doesn't want to board the window, baby started crying. Said, "Oh no, you have to do it."
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're looking at the potential of a Category 2 right over Lakeland. I mean, the eye is very, very close. Wind gusts well over 100 miles an hour. I would definitely be boarding those windows up.
Yeah, I agree with that, Eric. You got better safe than sorry. We might see wind gusts close to 90, maybe 100 miles an hour there.
Yeah. So one of the graph versions was showing that over 100.
I'd like to point out something really quickly, and we're going to try to put this in the comment section. Yesterday we had a question. I don't remember which one of you was on for this. I think it was you, Eric. Someone said, "I'm going to ask a question that everyone's thinking about, but only I have the bravery to ask about."
Yeah.
Yes. So the question was, Jeff, I don't know if you were on the stream for this moment.
No, he wasn't.
We had a video caller on Report It that said, if I'm in the eye, is it safe for me to go outside of my house and see the Coliseum effect, the eye itself?
It's interesting. And I heard Eric's answer, and I think it's okay, but let me tell you why it's dangerous. We have these mesovortices on the edges of the eye sometimes, and we see that often. Those mesovortices can, in a heartbeat, change your weather from perfectly calm and still to wow, big, like almost like a tornado comes through on the edge of the eye. So it's really dangerous to do it, and it's not recommended you do, but I get it. People are going to do it. Go out for 30 seconds. If you're going to do it, 30 seconds and come back in. I remember Eric saying that yesterday, but we can see the mesovortices sometimes on radar where these little twists embedded in the eye wall, and it makes it really precarious. So just be careful if you're going to do it, okay?
We put a link in the comment section to our eye viewing safety story. We actually went beyond the expertise of just the Max Fender 8 weather team and Eric answering that question. We actually talked to damage experts in the area, I think some other experts in the area. Nathaniel Rodriguez is the one who worked on that story, and it is currently up on WFLA.com. We just put the link to that story. So if you want more on, eye viewing safety, it's on our website. We have an article on it. On WFLA.com.
And the eye's going to really pass through kind of overnight. At least that's what it's looking like right now. So there's really not much to see if it's dark outside.
Yeah, that's another good point. The real-time wobble tracker
still
on WFLA.com. Is this just, Jeff, is this just kind of jetting east right now?
It is. I honestly, I take all this stuff with a grain of salt, and still, at some point, it's going to be picked up by the trough. It still hasn't felt the jet stream. It still hasn't felt the trough yet. At some point, it will. We'll see. Obviously, the further east and south it goes, the better off we are. But I don't want to read too much into this yet because it's so far out. There's so many things that can change between now and then. I get it. We're following every wobble. I'm the guy who invented the wobble tracker. I think it's really important.
You got to own it.
I do. I'm owning it. But I just don't think the wobbles at this very much. Look, keep watching it. Keep clicking on it, because the truth really is that it will matter in the end to some degree, but I'm not ready to make any determinations based upon these wobbles this far out.
As time progresses, these wobbles will be more and more important.
That's right.
Yesterday, the wobbles were, irrelevant. Today, maybe a little bit here and there, but then once we see it tomorrow, that's when it's really going to determine, hey, is this thing moving further south?
What time tomorrow? If you're a wobble tracker follower on WFLA.com, if you're one of our viewers that is following it in real time,
do we have a fan club for the wobble tracker?
I think there might be a fan club.
Right. Hey, Eric is the president. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get a hand raised emoji in our comment section if you have visited the wobble tracker on WFLA.com, or just like a thumbs up or a hand raise kind of thing?
Every time you visit the wobble tracker, I get a nickel.
That's why you're so rich.
So that's it all
if I
makes
got a
sense.
nickel for every time someone visited the wobble tracker, I'd be a rich man. You've heard that before.
You probably wouldn't be here.
I'd be in Tahiti.
Yeah.
I'd be in Tahiti.
Yeah.
So listen, on a somewhat serious note, Eric, I have to leave at 3:30.
Okay.
To start getting ready for the 4 o'clock show.
Okay,
so
so
if you
why
want
don't
to
I-
switch
why don't
places
I
with
start
me,
doing graphics
Yeah, because I'm
and-
going to have you
'cause
back
I-
in
yeah,
that
I
seat
still
in
got some
about
time.
half hour. Okay.
All right,
All right.
sounds
Thank
Can
you.
you guys switch
We're
seats?
switching. Yeah, we're switching.
So
I'm gonna sit there.
I think I put 3 on here, though.
Yep. That's.
So do you want to change that back to 1?
No, I'm good. Because you gotta.
The view thing is still going to be off.
I think Rebecca. It's okay. It's okay. Let's just leave it where it is. Rebecca, he needs to make the forecast. Okay. All right. Okay.
On Slider Cam.
All right.
Welcome back to the Stream Center. Real-time wobble tracker streaming on WFLA.com. We're now taking questions with our hashtag system, hashtag Hey Jeff, and
here I am.
hashtag Hey JB. Ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. I just, I'm putting the graphics up, and as the questions come, I'll do my best to answer them. I have about 30 minutes or a little less than that.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. Daniel Hollingsworth, hashtag Hey JB. How is it looking 3 miles from the beach in Englewood with 14 feet of elevation?
It would be really, really hard for the water to get 3 miles inland, despite the fact that you're at 14 feet. If water gets there through like nooks and crannies and finds a way in, because water does find a way, you would likely have not much water. But with that said, why not elevate the valuable stuff in your home? Why not just do it? It wouldn't take much just to take the stuff that you really care about, put it, on your counters. The water's not gonna come up to that at your house. Oh, and by the way, the heavy rain's on the north side of the system, not the south side of the system. So I wouldn't worry about rainfall flooding like we had in Ian. I'd be concerned about surge, not likely to get to you, but in the off chance that you end up with a little water in your street and in your home, elevate your valuables.
Black Dog says on YouTube Live, hashtag KJB, how does Arcadia look, Jeff?
Yeah, let's look at this right here. In terms of power outages, we have the power outage map up, and you can see that Arcadia, we're expecting likely power outages. This is a weather 3, by the way. So SRC 120. Okay. That's our source 120.
Apologies. Hold on. Let me punch that up. Wrong weather computer.
That's all right.
And in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. There it is. So we're looking at power outages there. And let me bring up this other graphic, and you can see Arcadia is kind of on the edge of the widespread.
Also worth a screenshot here, folks. If you could go back to the power outage graphic one more time.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Yeah,
Let me show them this. So see Arcadia, it's just south of Wauchula, and sorry, it's not labeled on this map. It's labeled on some of our maps, but it's right on the edge of the gust that could be 110. The strongest gusts are going to be on the south side of the storm. For this, right in the center, obviously, and on the south side. So Arcadia does stand the chance of having gusts over 100 miles an hour, okay? Let me bring the, I know JB wanted the power outage map, so bear with me. I'm going to bring it back up and take a look at this graphic, if you can. Here it is. It should be coming up right now. And there you go. As you can see, we're going to see widespread power outages inland all the way to about Arcadia, and then a little bit more, likely power outages across most of the area near the hurricane. And then east of that, so east of Arcadia, it's going to be widespread. So pretty much.
I want to scroll. I'm taking a picture of this. This is helpful. I think it's really helpful for people for what they can expect. So I want to send this to my friends and family. So I'm just taking a picture here.
Sure.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Okay, and don't mind that resilient ridge. That's left over from something else we were using. I don't know if you saw that.
Where is it? What?
Oh, it said resilient ridge on it.
Oh, no, I missed it.
Hold on.
So yeah, folks, and how long can we expect power outages to be? Days.
Yeah, days. And I sometimes for some people, getting through the storm is the easy part. Getting through the aftermath is the really hard part. By the way, right now we have the wind field map up, and I think it's interesting to show you real quick. Look how tiny that storm is now. So this is now. And, it's like the tropical storm force winds extend outward from the center about 100 miles. But then when we get to the end here, look how huge the storm becomes. So the hurricane force winds, by the way, are in the sustained hurricane force winds are in the red. See that, JB? Those are the sustained hurricane force winds. There'll be wind gusts that are to hurricane force anywhere in the orange. So the orange indicates winds that are sustained at 60 and gusting to hurricane force or more. But the red is where we would suspect that the strongest hurricane force winds are going to be. That's where we'll have sustained winds of 75, 80 miles an hour and gusts in that red area that are over 110 miles an hour. And you can see that moves right through Lakeland, right through Haines City and Davenport as well.
Very interesting. Winds, rain, storm surge, obviously going to be.
Look at this graphic right here.
Damage components with the storm. Yeah, what do you got?
So this is I think it's such a simple graphic, but I think it really kind of goes to show what we're expecting on each side of the storm. South side of the storm and underneath the core is where the surge will be, from Tampa Bay south. Maybe as far north as St. Pete Beach, probably not north of Clearwater, okay? That's where the surge is going to be. Next, where are the strongest gusts going to be? They're going to be basically from northern Hillsborough and northern Pinellas through Polk County and south to around Northport. That's where the strongest winds are going to be. And where's the heaviest rain going to be? That's going to be north of the center of circulation. So anywhere from St. Petersburg and more so Clearwater, Newport Richey, Wesley Chapel, out to about Lakeland and Spring Hill.
That extends so far north.
Yeah, it does. The north side of the storm is so top heavy. Let me show it to you on this graphic right here. And it's also the reason why we're concerned, or I'm concerned, that this storm, watch how it evolves. Watch how the thunderstorms get repositioned on the northern side. See the northern side and how much storminess is there. But look at on the eastern side. There's scattered storms, but it's not that solid batch of red, JB. So you have a problem here, right? That the storms on the north side are kind of pulling and tugging the circulation further and further north. How far north? Far enough north so that the eye of the storm goes into the bay, or does it go just south, and spare Tampa Bay surge? Right now, our in-house model is bringing the central area of low pressure right through the uprights of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. But if that happens, that exact track happens, Tampa misses out on the surge, and probably St. Pete too. However, the south side of Tampa Bay near Palmetto, the surge gets to you, and it gets to Anna Maria Island. We're talking inches here, GB.
We have another video question coming in, and I was alerted by our team. This would be a great one to ask you specifically. So this is coming in from Jeb in Bradenton. Let's go next to Jeb in Bradenton, Florida, here on Tracking the Tropics.
Hey guys, this is Jeb from Bradenton, Florida, and I have a question regarding Milton and climate change. And I am a little bit concerned that storms like this may continue to appear and arise and still be pretty bad. And not only just be pretty bad, but actually get worse as time goes on, get stronger, get wetter, and more frequent. Do you guys think that that's accurate? And what do you think that we should do for our communities to prepare for this in the future?
Sorry, Jeff, I cut you off there at the end, but Jeff, take it away.
Well, that's right up my alley. As you would know, I have a degree in climate as well as my degree in atmospheric sciences. And I study this, and I would say this is my specialty. And I think there's no doubt that we are going to see more intense storms in the future. We're already seeing it. I'll give you an example. Now, when we see, us forecasters, when we see a storm in the Atlantic, we assume it's probably going to rapidly intensify. And we also assume, a lot of us at least, that it's probably going to get stronger than the models say it's going to. Just like this storm did, just like Milton did, just like Beryl did, and to some degree, just like Helene did. Water temperatures are record hot in the Gulf. And by the way, they're record hot all over the Atlantic. They've never been this hot before. And they just keep getting higher. You know what record we're breaking? We're breaking 2023. 2024's water temperatures are warmer than 2023's, which were warmer than 2022's. As you add more heat, storms get stronger, they more rapidly intensify. Now, we did a study, and JB knows all about this. I partnered last year with Columbia University. This year, I partnered with the Department of Energy, and we said, okay, let's use 9 of our climate models, our best models. Let's project out into the future how hurricanes may change in the Bay Area and all across the Southeast if we warm as much as we think we're going to warm. And what we found was, assuming that we continue emitting carbon dioxide because of the burning of fossil fuels and methane, we found that we would see triple the number of major hurricanes in Florida. So any one location in Florida can expect 3 times more major hurricane landfalls than now. On average, Tampa gets one about once every 100 years, but by 2070, 2080, 2060, it's going to be once every 30 years possibly. That's what we found. And I would say that specific finding is debatable, but what's not debatable is we also found that rainfall rates will increase by 50%. We're already seeing that. In fact, there was a study on Hurricane Helene in the Carolinas finding that most of the area had 25 to 50% plus more rain because of human-caused climate change, because the atmosphere is warmer, it can hold more moisture, and storms are able to use that energy to produce more intense rainfall rates. And we found that hurricanes are likely to be 15 to 20% more intense just about 40 or 50 years from now. That was the study we did, and it's consistent with what we're seeing out in the field and with observations too. So thank you for your question, because it's a very important question. By the way, the water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico right now were made 400 to 800 times more likely by climate change. So the intensity of heat in the Gulf was made over 400 times more likely because of human-caused climate change. I'm not just making the number up. We actually have a tool that tells us how much more likely climate change made it, and it comes from the folks at Climate Central, who have an exclusive tool which allows us to kind of sample the ocean and figure out, okay, how much less likely would this have been if climate change didn't exist? And we find that climate change made this particular scenario, in terms of water temperatures, over 400 times more likely. See, you shouldn't have asked me a climate change question, because I go on and on and on, JB.
Yeah.
Next time I'll be a lot more concise.
There's a reason why Jeff has a show called Jeff's Climate Classroom, where he basically, it's like that, but times
on steroids.
100.
It's like that, but on steroids.
Yeah. No. It's a very educational climate program. I encourage folks that are interested in the study of our world's climate to really give that show a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's fantastic. If you're a weather nerd like that, fair to say, right? They really appreciate a good climate discussion.
Listen, I've been a weather geek. Listen to this. I've wanted to be a weatherman since I'm 3 years old. And I'm not making that up. My mom tells me all the time. She got my first thermometer when I was 3, my first weather radio when I was 5. So yes, I definitely own the term weather geek or weather nerd.
Chris Napper. # Hey, Eric, Jeff, JB. Do you think Hardy or Orlando would be a better place to ride out the storm.
If you have to choose between the two, I would probably choose Orlando.
And why?
Because it's further inland.
Yeah.
Hardy's definitely going to be on the southern eye wall, I think. Whereas Orlando will be on the northern eye wall. And if I have to choose, I guess it's a choice between strong winds or heavy rain. So I think I would choose it based upon the structure that you're going to in Orlando versus the structure in Hardy. But I would say probably Orlando.
All right, so we have the real-time wobble tracker. Next year, we're going to make the Waffle House tracker.
Okay.
And then the year after, we're going to make the Jim Cantori tracker.
Okay, all right.
Fair?
Are we going to like implant like a GPS device in him?
Yep. So
where in him, like in his wrist or in his
all right, so if we're
should we be talking about this in public?
No, but you know what? We want to make
anyway.
sure that Jim has fair warning.
Okay.
We're gonna like Ocean's 11. We're gonna pull off a heist.
Okay.
And Jim, yeah, we might have to kidnap you and then plant a tracker somewhere on your person that we know where you're going.
So we can go in the opposite direction.
That's right.
It's funny. Someone tweeted. Someone tweeted something like, "My dad says if he sees you step foot in this city, he's gonna kill you." That's what it said. It was the funniest tweet.
Jeff, those are dangerous words in
I
Florida.
know that. I think he was being sarcastic.
I
think
would
he was
hope
actually,
he was being sarcastic.
as if to say, if Jim shows up in your city, you better get out.
Jim, stay away from Tampa and Tampa Bay. And you know what?
Fair warning.
Canada is really nice this time of year, Jim. Hope that one day, maybe it'd be great to have Jim on the program one of these days. We are.
You know what? Maybe we can make that happen.
I would like to make that happen. Can we get a?
I spent some time with Jim last January, and maybe I'll see him again. Actually, I may see him again this January. So
let's try to get him on. What's the petition website like?
I don't think we have to. I could just probably
just call him.
Yeah, I'll probably just give him a call.
All right, we don't need a petition. Get Jim Cantori on and ask him specifically about whether or not we can kidnap him and send him to Canada for a beautiful Canadian vacation.
Hey.
Sorry, and by no means do I wish for hurricanes upon Canada. It's just they're not going to make it.
You just wish for them not being here.
I just wish for them not being anywhere where they can form and hurt people. How about that? Back to the comment section. The number one question that we have received for the last 72 hours is as follows. Joshua, hashtags all around. The chances it stays or makes landfall at Cat 4.
Yeah, it'll be close, but it'll be a weakening. It would be like on the threshold of Cat 4, Cat 3. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a Cat 3 when it comes across. And even if it were to be technically still winds of 131 miles an hour or whatever, a Cat 4, it would probably cause Cat 3 wind. This weakening storms at landfall don't produce nearly as much damage. In fact, Katrina is a great example. Katrina was a 5 over the Gulf, and it built up a huge storm surge, right? Huge storm surge. But the winds weakened dramatically. When it hit land, it did some wind damage, but not a lot of wind damage. But it still brought with it 28 feet of surge. So that's why we say this storm is not going to have the kind of winds that literally could just blow a house up or plow down a house or destroy a house. That's not the kind of storm this is. This will cause some roof damage. Yes, if it's not built well, it could pull the roof off, but it's not good. If it's a solid structure home, it's not going to knock down your walls. So this is not that. It's not a Michael. It's not an Andrew. It's not a Charlie. It's overall weaker winds. That's why we're focusing more on the threat from storm surge here, because even though it's going to be a Cat 3, a weakening Cat 3 at landfall wind-wise, it's going to carry with it Cat 4 surge, because that's what it is right now over the Gulf.
Next up, we've got on Facebook Live, Sarah Shapiro, hashtags for us both. What is it looking like for the Waimama Parish area for wind and rain? Will the eye pass over that area,
think so.
Jeff? Yeah.
I think that is a prime candidate for the eye passing over. I think you can kind of see it right there.
Yeah, if we could zoom in, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Can you zoom in?
Zoom in. Not really, JB, because the computer is. I don't.
Yeah,
we fixed it, but I don't know what the problem is.
We'll get with our IT team.
But
and
let me
fix that.
let me go forward a little bit, and you can clearly see. Here comes the eye. The eye itself goes over Tampa Bay and Bradenton. That's a big eye. It gets, the big eye could actually help the water not get into Tampa Bay, hopefully. But you can see that eye wall goes right into Parish and Waimama, right there. See it? The eastern eye wall. And if it goes any further south, you'll stay in the northern eye wall as it makes its way east. Let's follow that eye. straight, northern eyewall, Tampa, eastern, northeastern eyewall, Lakeland, eastern eyewall, Lake Wales, eastern eyewall, Wauchula. It's a big eye. It becomes a big eyewall. And western eyewall, Pinellas County.
Of course, a lot of people live in Pinellas County. We've got other questions coming in. That was Sarah. Let's go now to Gypsy Healer on YouTube Live. Hashtags for us both. What about the Land O'Lakes? What about the lakes in Wesley Chapel and the Land O'Lakes area? A lot of lakes in Land O'Lakes, as you would expect.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about it. I got to tell you, I'm concerned. So we've been showing you this the whole time, and hopefully you keyed in on the fact that this storm's going to be top heavy. You can clearly see.
Yeah, look at Land O'Lakes on this map. I mean, you can't really see it, but
it's Wesley Chapel, just west of Wesley Chapel. So there's going to be a swath of very heavy rain on the north side of this system. Whoever is north of this, you're going to get a lot of heavy rain. And I say to you, just because you're not going to get storm surge flooding doesn't mean you're not going to see flash flooding from rain. We could see, I think in 6 hours, we could see a foot of rain. That's too much. And some places will probably get, I think, 15 inches of rain from this. So what's going to happen here is that people are going to end up with water in their homes when they didn't expect it. So if you weren't listening before when I said, if you're just tuning in, why not elevate your valuables? Get your photos off the ground, get your valuable documents off the ground, and anything that's important to you, just put it on counters if you can, because I think there's going to be places that end up with water in their homes north of the track of this storm.
Next up, we've got, hold on. Joey actually is up next in our queue. Thoughts about the weather in Cape Coral, Jeff, is the question.
Yeah, I think Cape Coral is going to probably see some gusts to about hurricane force, so probably up to about 75. There'll be some, I would say, widespread power outages there. And I brought this map up just to show you how much heavier the rain is on the north side of the storm than there is on the south side. But let me go back to a graphic which shows. Let's look. I think this is the wind gust graphic right here. Here it is. Okay, and it doesn't show you Cape Coral, but you can clearly see Cape Coral's on the south side, just to the south of Venice. And as the storm's going through, Venice's winds get to be 93 for a time. So I would say expect some wind gusts up to 80 miles an hour in Cape Coral, and you're going to see the storm surge. It's not going to be as bad as it is in Bradenton Beach or Longboat Key, but you should expect several feet of storm surge there.
You can send in your video questions to WFLA.com/report it, and as we do at the end of every stream session, we're going to be getting to some selfies from some people out there watching the human side of the story, Jeff, the people that are in the path of the storm. We're going to show some selfies that are coming in. The rule with selfies, obviously, you just got to show that you're watching Tracking the Tropics in the background, and we'll show some smiling faces out there, people watching across the peninsula. Let's get to the video question that is currently loaded up into the queue, and this one is coming in from Vincent in Okeechobee. You're up, Vincent.
Quick question. We live right at the top of Okeechobee Lake. And I was just wondering how bad will the winds be and if they would affect the levees here in Okeechobee.
Oh, affect the levees. Yeah, what do you think, Jeff?
Well, I was a weather person in that market, which is the West Palm Beach market. And I don't think so, because you can look at this map right here. The strongest winds you see are sometime early Thursday morning. And I don't see them getting past about 75 miles an hour there. So barely hurricane force wind gusts. So don't get me wrong, I think there'll be an impact, but it looks to me like the worst misses Okeechobee by about, I'd say, 40 miles or so.
All right. Anything else to add, Jeff? Maybe we could just check in with Wobble Tracker while we load up some pictures into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it continues to go a little south of the expected track from the National Hurricane Center. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky and see a course correction from the National Hurricane Center at 5, which puts the storm, a little further south. And I say that, and, we have to qualify that with, we are not wishing for more destruction in, Sarasota. We're not. But we just know that the difference between a landfall in St. Pete Beach and a landfall in Sarasota is the difference between hundreds of thousands of homes, extra homes flooding. Whoever is south of the storm is going to get flooded. There's going to be storm surge flooding. So the further south this storm goes, the less people in the Tampa Bay area are going to get flooded. We don't wish anything on anybody who lives further south, but the disaster, the catastrophe that would ensue if this storm makes landfall in Pinellas County and water rushes into Tampa Bay, it will change the city for decades. And it's really interesting because, it's literally a 10 or 15 mile difference in track. I know I've said it a million times, but a 10 or 15 difference miles in track is going to make the difference between 15 feet of surge up to second stories in downtown Tampa and all across St. Pete, or no storm surge. That's the difference. 15 feet or nothing based upon a track change of 10 to 15 miles, JB. I mean, it's insane to think about. We are literally threading a needle here.
The Wobble Tracker is streaming all the time on WFLA.com. Jeff, I said, you told me you had to get out by 3:30.
Yeah, so I just need Eric. Approximately how much more time do you need? 5 minutes. Okay, in 5 minutes, Eric's sitting in, and I'm getting out. I have to start building graphics for the 4 o'clock.
All right. Well, no, you can go now because we're going to do the selfie segment. And then Eric, come back down for Q&A.
So you ready to let me go?
Yep, you're good to go. Right. And Eric Stone coming up next here from the Stream Center. Jeff, thank you as always for your expertise.
I'll see you on the air. We'll be on starting at 4 straight through 7:30. Okay, everybody on WFLA.
Give him a follow on X, Twitter. I got some flack from our moderators for calling it X, by the way. But yeah, no, I think I'm gonna lose the battle here because I have to tell people X to avoid confusion. But to me, it will always be Twitter. Let's continue on and show some of the questions. No, I'm sorry. No, wait. The selfies that are coming in really quickly. Just want to show some smiling faces. People that are watching the program from across the state of Florida, even beyond the state of Florida. Maybe people that have evacuated. Or we had a question come in from the Netherlands. Earlier, we had a reported submission from Johannesburg, South Africa. We've got more video questions that are going to be answered, but you can clearly see, you guys, that when I don't have any meteorologist to answer your questions, we just pivot to what I can do. And what I can do, of course, is just show some of you watching wherever you may be watching from. So let's, we're going to have to pivot here and show WFLA.com/reported. Doing some hot punching here to be able to bring it up on your screen. And there it is. And here we go. So first up in the queue, this is Prairie from, oh man, check this out. Okay, this is Prairie from Okeechobee. Everybody say hello to Prairie. Says that the little one here is tracking Milton. How precious. We've seen a lot of babies on the program, and I just, of course, I just encourage everyone out there, all the parents out there, be as safe as possible. All the families out there, look after your little ones, and do your best, of course, with the ever-changing conditions of this storm. Let's move on and show from Birmingham, Alabama. This is Brad. He is watching from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. That's UAB. It looks like he's got us up on the big screen there while he's working. Good to see you, Brad. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. Next up, we've got Chris from Clearwater, Florida, watching. It says, hey guys, just moved here to Clearwater a few months ago from California. Boy, am I stressed. This is my welcome to Florida present, he says. Yeah, wow. Well, Chris, don't tell anybody that all of this started when you moved here, because they'll think that you're the jinx. You don't want to be the jinx. So, but no, I feel for people that just recently moved here. We had a reported submission yesterday of somebody that was literally moving down here this weekend and said, hey, I'm packing up my car from New York. I'm on the way down, or I'm about to leave. Is that a good idea? And we basically said, yeah, you should try to wait. Don't leave if you can stay. And so not the best time to be moving to the state of Florida. And if you're already here, well, look, you're in the right place because you're listening to Florida meteorologists give a Florida forecast on a Florida storm, and you're in the right place to get really good weather coverage. I also want to point out that on Tracking the Tropics, by the way, when we cover storms in other states, we bring in meteorologists from those states. The meteorologists in their markets are going to know the area best. When we cover an Alabama storm, we bring in maybe an Alabama meteorologist from WKRG. When we have a New Orleans storm, we go to Chief Meteorologist Hank Allen at WGNO because he knows New Orleans like no one else as far as how storms can impact the low-lying areas of coastal Louisiana. When we have a Texas storm, we bring in a Texas meteorologist from Austin, from KXAN, our next star sister station there. So Tracking the Tropics, we believe in bringing on the meteorologists from that area, and it's invaluable to hear from them and their expertise. This is Lisa from Brandon. Please be safe, Lisa. If you're in Brandon, you've got a storm heading your way that is not to be trifled with, and I see that you're wearing your Alabama shirt and Roll Tide. Am I getting in trouble for saying Roll Tide as someone who used to live in Alabama? Yeah, I might get in a little bit of trouble now that I'm in the state of Florida, but I'll just say it. I'll say it. Roll Tide. We've got a selfie from Germany. We've got Amanda says that she is watching on her wall projector. Says that she's in Germany, just moved from Sarasota County to Germany. Family is in Venice, right under Tampa. Yeah, so it's not, well, I guess geographically from Germany, it probably looks like Venice is right under Tampa, but there is a considerable amount of communities that are between Tampa and Venice, Florida. Please, I hope that your family makes it out A-OK, Amanda, and fingers crossed for your family. Thanks for sending in the thumbs up there with Eric and myself in the background. That's the rule, by the way. You got to send in a selfie with us in the background so that we can obviously show that you're watching the show. This is Jarmo from Sarasota. He says, why settle on just one stream? Yeah, he's got two, so this is great. Jarmo, I appreciate you sending this in. He's got Tracking the Tropics on the right screen, and he's got the City of Tampa Emergency Preparation Press Conference on the left side with the sign language interpreter there as well. That also might be streaming on WFLA too. We've been carrying these press conferences on WFLA.com so that everybody in their respective counties can get their pressers. Great. This is phenomenal. I don't know how you're listening to both, Jarmo. You're probably switching back and forth, but this is really great as far as getting real-time information. We've got two more. And again, you can send yours in WFLA.com/report it. We love the pets. I love the cats. People that know me well enough know that I have two at home. Sam in Oldsmar says, hanging out with the Tracking the Tropics team. We love to see it. And lastly, oh my goodness. You guys should see this one. This is Kayla in Pinellas Park. Wow. Moved in 1 month ago. Have had to repack and unpack the house twice due to hurricanes and now evacuating. She says, forever unpacking. Yeah, you guys can see it on your screen over there. Our meteorologists can, I feel for you there, Kayla. Oh my, we were just talking about people that have just moved down. You're thinking, my goodness, I get to move down to Florida, the Sunshine State, beaches, theme parks, no income tax, a lot of things to love about living in Florida, right? Hurricanes are not one of them. And it's just been a brutal stretch for Florida and hurricanes this particular season. I hope that future seasons are much, much more forgiving on the state of Florida. But my goodness, to pack, repack, unpack, and repack again, my heart goes out to you and your family, and I think your face says it all here in this picture. So thank you to Kayla. We've got a lot more coming into WFLA.com/report it that we will try to spotlight in the coming few minutes. Eric is probably getting closer to coming in our direction. We got about a minute. All right, so we got a minute. Let's see, can we get one more selfie in? Oh my God, this is hilarious. Well, usually freeze frames, I have like one eye open and one eye completely shut. But somehow Phil captured a somewhat normal looking picture of me. The freeze frames are not, kind to us, but you know what, Phil? That one's not. Look at that. Good to see you, Phil. Nice to see a smiling face. He is joining us from his home. Doesn't say where. Does not give a location. Just says Phil 334 from my house. Phil, thanks for watching, and really do appreciate you watching Tracking the Tropics. Our streaming coverage continues as we await meteorologist Eric Stone and our Max Fender 8 weather team. They're all filing in, getting ready for our evening newscast here on WFLA News Channel 8, your NBC station right here in Tampa, Florida. A quick reminder, the 5 o'clock advisory will be really significant. In the 4 o'clock hour, we get the new in-house model. And then at 5 o'clock, we get the new track. We're going to answer a few more questions for about 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes. We're not going to go past 4 o'clock. We've got to give our vocal cords a rest. We have a long way to go. Really, tomorrow, for the first 18 or so hours of the day, we have our Tracking the Tropics coverage before we transition to landfall coverage. So we have to save our vocal cords when we can. And it's just the advisories are really big. The 11 p.m. a.m., 5 a.m. p.m., those 11s and 5s are really important. We'll get positional updates, and Wobble Tracker will give us some ideas. I mean, Eric, that's off the track here.
And I mentioned several hours ago that I thought it was going to continue this easterly track for several hours, and it has. I still, it hasn't gotten picked up by the jet as of yet. We'll see when that happens. I think it's going to happen later on today, and then we'll see more of a northerly turn. But again, for now, it is pretty much moving east to northeast, just north of east. And you can see that eye is really well defined. It has completed that eye wall replacement, and now it looks stronger than ever, even though we're looking at 155. We're pretty close to a Cat 5. We'll see if it makes it there. The possibilities there coming up at 5 o'clock with a new advisory. Although if it does reach 160 and it's a Cat 5, they may issue a special advisory beforehand, but we'll see.
All right. Well, we're here with you live on Tracking the Tropics through till 4 o'clock Eastern time. Let's continue to answer questions. You can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyEric to have your comment featured on the live stream. I think we had some others in the queue. Yeah, so let's just quickly empty out the queue and then get to the new ones coming in. Justin Miles, hashtags for me and Jeff from earlier. It sounds like many of us don't need to worry about the storm any longer in Citrus County. Is that true, Eric?
No, anyone in the Bay Area has to worry about the storm. Citrus County is still in the cone. You're not going to be in the eye wall, but the possibility of 8 to even 12 inches of rain and hurricane force wind, but wind gust over 80 to 90 miles an hour in Citrus County, I would definitely say you're not out of the woods at all. In fact, you are going to get major impacts in Citrus County.
Let's continue on and spotlight the ones that are just coming in. People asking about Cat 6 again on YouTube Live. That's to be expected.
Yeah.
There is no Cat 6 storm.
No.
And there won't be.
No. I mean, if there were, it would have been yesterday at 180, but no, there's not.
Let's see. Oh, wow. So YouTube is bugging out on me a little bit here. Hold on. I got to refresh. Or you know what? We'll come back to YouTube. YouTube just randomly started to give me errors. Daphne wants to ask this question. Oh, see, that's what it is. They're coming in so fast. Once I say that I'm coming to questions, everyone punches theirs in. That's what that was. Okay. Daphne, hashtags for us both. What is worse, being in the path of the eye, south of the eye, or north of the eye when it comes to inland or in Polk County?
In this case, I would say if you're just north of the eye, it would be the worst case scenario because, again, there's going to be a lot of rain on the northern eye wall. Northport was in that northern eye wall with Ian for 4 hours. They got pummeled with the northern and northwestern portion of that eye wall. That was the heaviest rain and strong wind with Ian. And I do think that's going to be the case with this one as well, that the heaviest rain and rainfall rates are going to be in that northern eye wall. So while the wind is going to be pretty strong, whether, the eye goes right over top of you or you're to the north or to the south, I do think the northern side of the storm is more dangerous inland because of that flooding threat.
YouTube Live, we're back, and that allows me to hot punch in this one from It's Just Mino. Hashtag Hey Eric, what conditions do you look for when considering the height of storm surge?
Well, basically, you look at, how big is the storm? How strong is the storm, really? And, which direction it's moving. Storm surge will be a little bit higher if the storm is moving from west to east because it's got that momentum of building the waves and the waves making a beeline right to the west coast. If the storm is moving from south to north, then the waves are moving south to north. And eventually, when that southwest component comes in, it does blow those waves into the bay or into the coastline. But a storm that's moving from the west or even from the southwest in this case, it's moving rather perpendicular or at a 90-degree angle to the coast. And I think that would create the highest storm surge. And again, I estimated in my experience of 10 to 15 feet before any storm surge values were even put into place. Just because I've kind of seen this before, it's really hard to just estimate based on. Now, obviously, if this was another Ian and it was a Cat 5, or if it was strengthening, then they probably would show 15 to 20 feet, and that's basically what it was down in Fort Myers Beach with Ian.
Next up, we've got hey, JB, hey, Eric. Okay. My family is in Daytona Beach on the beach side. Should we evacuate, and what type of risk are we in?
Well, if Daytona Beach turns out to be on the northern end of this, okay, which is very close, especially if the track moves south, there's going to be several feet of storm surge, especially if you're on the beach itself. Now, most of the property there on Daytona Beach is built to where there is no first floor, really. The first floor may be parking or stilts or elevated. So obviously, the kind of storm surge you're going to see is not going to inundate the second floor. But if you do have a car that is on ground level along Daytona Beach, the possibility of storm surge is there. I mean, it's, with this track, especially if it moves southward, you could get 5 foot of storm surge, and that would total your car easily. So, I would make sure that your car is not on the ground level if you are on the beach side. But as far as the building's concerned, I wouldn't be too concerned unless, you've got an old wooden building. Otherwise, if you're a concrete block, I think you'd be fine.
Next up, we've got Anon, hashtags. It's a double for me again. That's weird. Hi, guys. What's the difference between a flash flood and storm surge? It's a great, definition-based question.
Yeah.
And so a two-parter. How will Orlando and Osceola be impacted?
So, usually flash floods are when you talk about mountainous areas, like Asheville, where one moment there's not much, there may be a lot of rain, and then the next moment you're flooding. And that's what I call flash flood. Here in Florida, you don't typically get flash floods. You see it coming. It's rain for a long period of time, and then eventually things flood. All right. So, and I did mention the phrase flash flood because the northern end of the storm will create about as close to a flash flood, meaning instant, meaning 1 minute it's raining like crazy, 15, 20 minutes later, oh boy, here you go. You have all this water that's flooding over rivers and streams and stuff like that. As far as storm surge, of course, that's water that's already there. That's water from the Gulf of Mexico, Tampa Bay, the rivers, that when the wind is blowing that water into the coast or into the bay, the rivers, tributaries, whatever you want to call it, they overflow. So storm surge is the flooding of water that's already there being blown in versus a flood is basically fresh water, which is rain falling. And as far as Orlando goes, they're in the swath of a possibility of 8 to 10 inches of rain out of this. And with Ian, Orlando got over 20 inches of rain. And we saw, JB, you and I, as a helicopter was going over, we saw a lot of cars, apartment complexes. The cars were underwater. So some of that
Destroyed.
some of that, and that was in Orlando. That was far, far away from Fort Myers where it made landfall. So in Orlando, low-lying areas that typically flood, if you get 10 inches of rain, you could be in a similar case, but this is moving a lot faster than Ian, so I don't think we're going to see anything more than 10 to 12 inches of rain in Orlando.
If you don't believe in inland impacts, like far inland, look at what just happened with Helene.
Yep.
Now, Helene was racing at 20 plus miles per hour, different speed tier for sure. But, I mean, if anybody thinks that Orlando can't see significant damage or significant flooding as a result of this storm, you're just not paying attention to the science here. Like our
go back 2 years
meteorologists,
ago.
all of our meteorologists are pointing this out, that there is reason to believe that a large swath of Central Florida is going to be under significant floodwater in flood-prone areas, and you just got to really pay attention to the forecast and have a plan, because there are areas of the central section of the state that are going to see significant flooding, even though you're not, on the coast.
And I do think in this case versus Ian, you may not get as much rain, but the wind is going to be a lot stronger, because obviously, even though Ian was stronger at landfall, it took a little while before it made its way to Orlando. I think it was moving 9, 8, 6 miles. I mean, it was moving pretty slowly. So, but here, this storm's going to be moving quick, 15, 17 miles an hour, 18, and so the wind is going to hold its own for a little while. So in the Orlando area, it's very possible that you'll have Category 2 wind, or at least wind gust over 80, 90, maybe even up to 100 miles an hour. So that will provide, unfortunately, a lot of devastation for parts of Orlando, even if you only get, and I say only, 10 to 12 inches of rain. But flooding and wind are possible from a West Coast landfall. Obviously, the worst-case scenario, JB, would be like an Andrew coming into Central Florida, going straight to Orlando because it's a little bit closer to the East Coast. But still, this storm could do a lot of damage in Orlando.
Let's get to the questions that are coming in to WFLA.com/reportit. Some video questions are all ready to go in the queue, and we've got a little bit of show and tell coming in here from Jason. Jason is joining us from Bayshore and Howard. Jason, thank you very much. Again, video questions can be sent in to WFLA.com/reportit. We love to see exactly where you're joining us from. You can show us your location, and we can give you a better idea as to what to expect in that particular location. So first up, Jason joining us from Bayshore and Howard in Tampa. Let's listen in.
Hey guys, Jason here. I'm at Howard and Bayshore in a mandatory evacuation, Zone A. And as we're preparing everything, I just remember during Helene, the bay coming up over Bayshore right here, basically taking over Bayshore. And if we're looking at worst case scenario, 15-foot storm surge, which is double what we saw with Helene. Maybe we're looking at the whole pool and parking area being underwater. My question is, how long does something like that last in the worst case scenario? Might we be cut off from re-entering the building? Something like that. I know we don't have a lot of experience with direct hits like this, but anything professionals could advise would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, so the number one...
Well, we should probably point out he's in a mandatory evacuation zone, so let's just start there.
Yeah, he's in a mandatory evacuation zone because of the possibility of storm surge. Obviously, the wind's a huge issue. He's higher up and appears to be in a somewhat sturdy, building. But what I'm most concerned about is, like he said, the cars that are sitting there, right? They're all sitting ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. If this turns slightly to the north, every one of those cars are done. I guarantee it. They're all totaled. So people want you to evacuate because of the water, not because of the wind. And the water will destroy any of those cars on the ground level there if, again, there is a 10 to 15-foot storm surge. So, I would find a safe place to put your car. If if I always say, if they tell you to evacuate, you evacuate. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Whether you're concerned about your building, whether it's going to be sturdy or whatnot, that's up to you. But it's your vehicle that you're probably going to lose if you do stay there. That, again, is if this takes, a northerly track. And yeah, the water could be several feet. How long does it take to recede? You know what? JB and I went outside at 9:30, 10 o'clock. There was about 2.5 foot of water outside our station. Now, our station's elevated, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go up our walkway, you're going several feet kind of up a hill, so to speak. So we were nowhere near, being inundated with water here at all. But we couldn't get out, okay? Unless you wanted to walk through that. And so by the next morning at, 5, 6 a.m.,
yeah, things had really
all that water was
improved.
gone.
Yep.
So you want to talk about 8 to 10 hour period of time. And Bayshore would recede pretty quickly, too, if that were the case. The thing is, you're going to be without power, most likely. You're not going to have a car if you leave your car in that parking lot, and this takes a more northerly track. So I guess hopefully that answered his question, that, 10, 12 hours. 15 foot of storm surge takes a little bit longer to recede. So I would say maybe sometime later in the day, Thursday afternoon, at most evening. You're not going to be, stuck in your place for days, you know what I'm saying, because of storm surge water. Once the wind dies down, eventually that water does recede.
Yep.
And it doesn't take all that long to recede back
It moves
into the
quicker
Gulf.
than you would anticipate,
Right.
than you would think when you see it.
It's basically as fast as it moves in, it moves out. A lot of people can't believe how fast it moves in, and it does. But it'll move out the same, So I wouldn't be concerned about you being stuck. I'd be concerned about your vehicle, sitting there on the ground floor, sitting there in the parking lot, getting flooded out.
Yep.
So
Next up, Farida is got a video question. The location is in Davenport, so let's go to her.
Hi guys, I'm here in Davenport, Florida, and we're just wondering, since we live in a manufactured home, if we should be evacuating. We are in Polk County, and it looks like the eye is headed straight for us, so any guidance on that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Davenport is about as far northeast in Polk County, very close to Celebration, which I believe is Osceola County, the next county over. So if you are in one of those manufactured homes, mobile homes, modular homes, the eye is going to move very, very close to you. It's still going to be a Cat 1 storm. I would definitely evacuate. You don't have to go far, but you have to go in a more sturdy structure.
In a manufactured home, yeah,
I
we're
hate
going
to
to
say
err on the side of caution.
Once
And
you get to 50, 60 miles per hour, it's not safe. Even at that, even JB at a tropical storm, I saw what happened in Ian with modular homes that, withstood wind of 50 to 60, and numerous carports were just gone, right? And I say it all the time. Most of the time, those roofs are attached to your roof of your actual house. And so if the carport roof goes, then it starts peeling back your roof. Then you get rain in your house. So I would definitely get out of there.
I would like to remind our audience that we're closing in on 1 hour to the major 5 o'clock update. We are going to be taking a break here in a few minutes. We got a couple more questions in the queue, and then we're going to be stepping away for 1 hour. But you want to come back for the 5 o'clock update. I'm extremely curious to see what the NHC track does. Does it narrow? Does it move south, or does it stay really right there on Anna Maria Island and the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, in that general area? Look, the 5 o'clock advisory, I hope you join us at 5 o'clock Eastern, because we'll be streaming for it, and it will be really interesting to see what kind of movement we get with the NHC's new track.
And we're definitely going to focus. So the cone in time is going to narrow. That's, so as the storm gets closer, the cone is going to
It already
shrink
has narrowed,
either way.
yeah.
And in time, the cone, that's what cones are. You know, they start out small and they get out. Okay. So whether the models are more in agreement or not, which they're still not in agreement, the cone is still going to shrink. What I'm more concerned about is where is that center line? So you see where the center line is right now, and it's pretty much right over Anna Maria Island. Is that center line going to go south? The wobble tracker right now is still showing an east-northeast movement, okay? The NHC track is more straight northeast, right? As you can see. So this is moving, JB, north of east. But the jet still hasn't quite picked this up yet. So for now, it's holding that track that it's had basically over the past 2 hours or so since the 2 o'clock update. But it's definitely staying to the south of it. So again, when the models pick up the new location of the storm, when they initialize their runs coming up at 18Z, which it's still a few hours away, then they're going to initialize further to the east, right? Let's see if that, or further to the south of the track. Let's see if that relates to a further south landfall in the track and in the models. And I know I've said it for several days, my belief, but again, you know, I could be wrong. I do believe the track is going to move to the south. Not that I want folks south of here. They're going to get catastrophic damage out of this in Sarasota, Manatee, even down to the Fort Myers area. All right. I got a lot of loved ones there, family and friends. But that 20-mile jog to the south, as Jeff said, unfortunately, that same damage is going to happen in Sarasota, Manatee, Lee County. But the 100,000 homes or however many homes are around the bay will not be impacted as they would on a 20-mile jaunt to the north. So again, we will see if this does move south. And it's very important because if it doesn't, if this moves north, then JB and I are going to be right in the 15-foot storm surge. We're going to see it right out here, you know.
Do we have a
And
kayak at the station? We're going to need it. I'm not kidding.
if if the track goes to the north, yes, we would. So again, we don't wish anything ill upon anyone, but that 20-mile jog to the south, which it already did from yesterday to today, is huge for getting water out of the bay rather than affecting homes from southern Hillsborough, northern Manatee, all the way up to northwestern Hillsborough and eastern Pinellas, and also coastal Pinellas County. When you factor in that, there's millions of people that live in and around the bay, whether it's Davis Island, South Tampa, West Shore, all the town and country. I could name the towns, okay, that will not be affected if this is 20 miles south. Unfortunately, Manatee, Sarasota counties are going to get the brunt of the storm surge, regardless of if this is a landfall at St. Pete Beach or a landfall at Anna Maria Island. The damage is going to be the same. That 20-mile difference is not going to make a difference in the 10 to 15-foot storm surge in Sarasota and Manatee County. But the 20-mile difference will make a huge difference with the bay. And I can't stress that enough. So for now, the track is slightly to the south, and it has been trending that way. Just for the heck of it, I think the model, I wonder if the model plot's just updated. Let me look at this here.
Oh, are you talking about the, yeah.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What did I tell you? Oh my. Did they shift or did they shift? Remember the black lines? The consensus models were right over Tampa Bay. And now look, you want to zoom in? I know you like zooming in. So because you like zooming in, I'm going to zoom in here. All right. Let me, hold on a second. Just over here. Okay. I mean, this is a big, big shift. This is what I felt was coming. So let's see here. Let me click on the camera. Come on, camera. Let me zoom this in. I mean, now there's only two models that have it taking it north of Tampa Bay, okay? One model is right around the track. But boy, look at the models from Bradenton all the way down to Venice. Oh, again, my heart's going out for folks in Charlotte and Lee County. There's even a model now that goes, look at that, into Charlotte Harbor, into Charlotte County. I said this before. This may be a major scenario for Southwest Florida. I don't foresee it being another Ian, but this could be really, really bad if these models continue and if our track continues to move south. Because now the consensus models are right over top of Sarasota. You see that in the black models. So the average, so you see just as many models to the south as you do to the north. So you understand when I talk about the cone. Look, the model consensus, JB, is way the heck out there, okay? The cone has shrunk in size, but that is only because we're getting closer to landfall. You look at these models, and you're like, well, boy, I'm not seeing anything here. I mean, you got one that goes through Tarpon Springs, one that goes through Clearwater Beach, one that goes through Anna Maria Island, and then you got one that's going through Boca Grande and Charlotte County. But I did suspect that this would happen, that these model consensus would shift to the south. Maybe it is in response to the constant easterly motion of the wobble tracker. And again, I had said, let's see if this off track, right? It's moving to the south, clearly has any effect on the models. Yesterday, JB, I said, I don't think it's going to matter much. Today, I said, it's going to matter some. And then tomorrow, it's really going to matter. But you know what? It's consistently gone off the track for 11 o'clock, right? So what is it? 4 o'clock now? It's consistently gone off the track, JB, for 5 hours. All right? Obviously, that's not a wobble. That is a directional movement to the east and northeast. And now you're seeing it on the spaghetti plots. All right? The models most likely have initialized the new position of Milton, which is south and east of the NHC track. All right? Now we will see at 5 o'clock if NHC does bring the track a little further south. Again, it lags behind a little bit because, see, sometimes the models wobble. You know that, JB? Sometimes the models will kind of wobble to the south and then correct themselves back to the north, right? We saw that Sunday and Monday. So NHC wants to make sure that this is an ongoing trend with the models before they drastically change the cone, right? What did we see with Ian about 2 days out? We saw a huge cone shift, right? Remember, it was really close to Tampa, and then we woke up the next morning, and it was almost down to Venice. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very, very similar case. I said, I think there's going to be a surprise with this. Well, we will see. We will see. But right now, things are trending to the south. And boy, this is the furthest south trend I've seen since Saturday and Sunday, with only 2 outliers, meaning 2 models that are kind of out to lunch, right, so to speak. And they're probably the hurricane models, all right? The global models most likely are the ones. Now, soon, and I don't know if we'll still be on, probably closer to 4:30, our in-house model will update. And so by like 4:20, 4:30, we may see, a shift in our in-house model. But again, that, NHC does not take into consideration that track. They take the global models into consideration. But boy, I tell you, what a tale of 2 model runs. Combine this with a wobble tracker, and I think we got something here. But again, nobody's out of the woods. All right.
Right.
Even if this does move, I don't want people to get a false sense of security. All right. Even if the models do take this a little bit further south, listen, there's going to be severe flooding in the northern side of the storm. All right. We're looking at 12 plus inches of rain in a short period of time. We just had one of the rainiest rainy seasons, right? that we have had in a long time. The ground is super saturated. And now you're throwing another 12 plus inches in a short period of time. So, for Tampa Bay, surge-wise, what we're seeing right here is a lot better scenario than what we saw. Now, folks in the Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte area, this is a little bit more severe as water being pushed into Charlotte Harbor and the way Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte flood in storms like this. I don't like that. And I'm really, really, really concerned for folks in Charlotte and Lee County right now along the immediate coast. If these model trends continue to move south, then, and I'm not just talking the 20 miles from the mouth of Tampa Bay north to the southern part of the Skyway Bridge. I'm talking if the track shifts 50 to 100 miles south, then we are looking at severe storm surge yet again, unfortunately, on Fort Myers Beach, who just cleaned up after Ian just 2 years ago. But again, it's amazing to me to see this shift of the models, so many of them to the south. I know I've said a lot there.
No,
but
I'm processing a lot.
As a meteorologist, I get, I not excited, but I get amplified, when I start seeing things that I think are going to happen. And I start to see it materialize because I want people to be protected in all areas. And if I think these models are going south, I want people further south to evacuate if they're told to board up their windows if they're told to get out of mobile homes and modular homes if they're told to. And then if I see it happening, it's like, come on, guys, I pray that you did that.
I am going to be completely honed in on the track at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
I mean, who cares? I mean, look, no. Everything matters with
it's
the storm.
It's not who cares, but yes, the track is number one.
Track is number one priority.
Yes.
At 5 o'clock, which is in 50 minutes from now.
Yes.
So we're gonna give our vocal cords a bit of a rest. Will the spaghetti models be the precursor to what we get at 5 o'clock? Will the NHC adjust their track based on the spaghetti models that have just developed in the last half hour or so? Or will the NHC wait for additional runs to move the track potentially to the south because they think that this is a premature development? We are going to find out at 5 o'clock. We are going to be signing off from the Stream Center to give our vocal cords a rest, talk to our team, do everything that we need to do off camera. So stepping away from the microphones are myself and Eric Stone. We will be back at approximately 5 o'clock p.m. with the major update, the advisory from the National Hurricane Center on the latest with Hurricane Milton. Again, a Category 4 storm. Wobble tracker remains up. We can monitor the progress all the time on WFLA.com. There you see the deviation that we've been describing, moving east of the NHC's projected track. We'll keep this up in, of course, our Forecast HQ, our Milton Forecast HQ. And you can send in, of course, everything to WFLA.com/reporting. We will see you in fewer than 50 minutes back here on Tracking the Tropics for the major 5 o'clock advisory from the NHC.